G'day, I'm Ian, and this is a little bit of a story about New Year's Eve where part of it's happened and a part of it is probably a little bit of imagination, but we'll see how it all goes. This story begins and ends at the Sydney Ferry Terminal. We begin at New Year's Eve at 2:30 in the afternoon with a group of people trying to purchase ferry tickets, all rushing down to try and get onto the ferry with about 3 minutes to go, me included. So after a big race down towards a ticket machine, finding that my ticket nearly got stuck trying to get it through the gate, I myself with a whole bunch of people raced down with a bag in my hand to ferry gate 5. While trying to board, there's a woman screaming trying to get on the gangplank. She's got 3 kids that she can't find, and we already find they're already on board the ferry. So while she's screaming, she's blocking everybody else up, ferry people included, trying to get everybody at the last minute so the ferry can leave the dock. So after rushing out to the front, I'm looking around, of course, like a stuffed plumber, looking for a place to actually park myself, and I find myself a little bit of an area at the front of the ferry where another girl, like myself, is rushing around looking for the same place. We decide after bumping into each other, we'll both sit on the same seat. So we sit there and we're on this ferry and we go through the whole afternoon, trying to get to know each other like 2 people lost in the middle of a big city. Anyway, unbeknown to us, there is another person sitting on the seat on the other side who I will now call her ex. So what happens is that we get down and we start making a small film, getting to know each other, a few beers, a few things to eat. And we notice that this stranger is getting closer and closer onto the ferry. So I sit around and I turn around and said, "Do you know this guy?" She turns around and says, "Oh God," she said, "I thought I lost him at the railway station." So it turns out it was one of her ex-boyfriends that she'd been trying to dump for 12 months apparently, who must have somehow followed her into Sydney. Both finding that we're both from Melbourne and also have a past from Perth, I decided that I'll use my James Bond ingenuity and we'll find some ways that we can get rid of this rascal and find a bit of a spot for ourselves. So what I do is I get some nice little girl and I give her $5 to go up and talk to the guy for 5 minutes so we can go and dive down to the other end of the ferry, grab ourselves an ice cream and disappear into the dark areas of the back of the ferry where no one can find us. We race down through the back, we head down towards the terminal as we notice we're coming into Manly. I grab hold of Mim, who I know by her name by now and where she came from because we had a bit of time to talk. I decided to say, well, if you want to get rid of this guy, then there's only one way we can do it. We'll have to go through the back ends of Manly, crawl down through the side and find a nice little quiet bar that he doesn't know and we do. So after that, we decided to go down. We found a bar, which, believe it or not, was almost on the side of the ferry terminal. Last time I saw was this guy wandering around with a whole bunch of foreign tourists trying to ask him where directions were, so we left him where he was. We actually sat down, toasted ourselves our new meeting at the ferry terminal bar, enjoyed ourselves, had a nice drink, and said goodbye to good riddance and hope we won't see this guy again for the rest of the afternoon.
Wunderbar!
Unbeknown to us, that didn't happen. Anyway, we decided, by that stage, because this new girl was actually new to me and I was new to her, we decided, well, since we're 2 people stuck in the middle of Manly together and it's New Year's Eve, what a better way to actually spend New Year's Eve. But of course, her ex-boyfriend had other ideas. So as we were sitting down having a drink, racing through the bar yelling and screaming, "You bitch, you left me for this bloody idiot. Why did you leave me? Who am I?" And I just looked at this guy and said, "Mate, I no wonder your buddy left this bloke, So anyway, we left him screaming and half a dozen people disappearing. I grabbed her by the arm, took her through a couple of bars and clubs, playing cat and the mouse until we finally got down to Manly Beach. Her boyfriend had no idea where we were by that stage because he didn't know who we were. Anyway, having carried on, having a great idea, I took her through some of the other side streets. And then all of a sudden, about halfway up the other end of the corner, we're sitting there having a coffee and there's this guy screaming around, looking around, and another couple of people actually blocking his way, thank goodness to us. Anyway, we enjoyed the great part of the afternoon and went through to the early part of the evening and decided we'll go celebrate New Year's Eve. We're sitting in a bar, enjoying ourselves, and who unbeknown to us, this guy comes screaming down, half drunk, falls on top of the bloody road right in front of the bar, where he gets picked up by black and white for being drunk and disorderly, and we say, "Goodbye, buddy, nice to see you." Anyway, we finally get rid of him, we thought. We get back during the rest of the night, enjoy the whole night, have a few drinks, and catch the last ferry back to Sydney. As we're about to catch the last ferry out of Sydney, it looks like this guy must have got bailed out, because he's screaming up, runs up the end of the gangplank, falls splash into the water and misses the ferry as it starts to leave the terminal. We finally sit around and say, well, gee, we had a good night. Anyway, we enjoy each other's company, and as we're just heading into Woods of Sydney, we cruise underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I turn around and we give ourselves a nice little toast, sing Auld Lang Syne, and I give this new girl a little peck on the cheek. I turn around in the morning and I can't find her anymore, she's gone. As I turn around, I check my back pocket, and there I find her name and an email address. So I always wonder whatever had happened to that lovely girl, and wonder if that boyfriend ever found her again. This was penned by Ian Gwynn, and I hope nobody else ever has a night like this.